Hello everyone. It's really great to be in New Zealand. It's the first time I've been here in about 10 years, so it's lovely to be back. And I'd just like to thank the organisers for the opportunity to present today to you on what we've been doing over the last 12 months. So the committee actually formed 2 years ago, and you can find out a little bit more about that by visiting our webpage, which is part of the Fontan Registry's website. And you can see Jonathan Mackley's presentation from last year's Education Day, which explains how we formed, why we formed, and gives you a little bit of background. So just because we're a little bit pressed for time today, I won't go into that. You can look that up and find that out. Today, I'm mostly going to talk to you about current project updates, carer support, and helpful resources. Okay, so just quickly, these are our current committee members, and I must apologise to Jessamy, who is our newest member. We don't have a photo of her up there, but we're very excited to have our first member from New Zealand. It's something that we've wanted for a long time, and we're hoping to have more people involved from New Zealand on the committee so that we can adequately represent the two countries. You can read a little bit more about us too on the webpage also. So the current projects that we've been working on, I'm going to just very quickly touch on the bottom two because I want to focus mostly on the top two today. So the committee members' Fontan stories, this is just pending at the moment. So what this is about is that committee members who wish to do so can share their personal Fontan stories on our webpage, perhaps underneath their photos, and you can just get a bit of a glimpse of the variety of experiences that there are out there and also learn a little bit more about us. And the Facebook page, so the Fontan Registry have very generously over the last 2 years allowed us to post things that are advertising what we're working on their Facebook page. So we've decided to create our own, and that's been up and running now for about 8 days. So it's the Australian-New Zealand Fontan Advisory Committee community, but all these addresses will be on a later slide for you to copy down. And we're excited about this because it's another channel through which we can communicate with the Fontan community, but also how you can communicate back to us. All right, so I'll move on to the Fontan Carers groups. We had our first Fontan Carers group held in Melbourne at the Royal Children's Hospital on the 14th of August, and it went for a couple of hours on a Sunday afternoon. We had 12 people attend, 9 of those were carers. And it was actually a fantastic afternoon. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about why we created a Fontan Carers group in the first place. And these are some of the reasonings behind it. There are many more, but these are some of the standout ones. So a way for people to connect with one another. So a way for carers to actually meet other carers, and you have obviously unique journeys, but there is a shared theme there. And there's something very special about meeting other people who have a similar experience. The other reason too being sharing, so stories and experiences, but also sharing information. By information, I'm not referring to medical advice or anything of that nature. We don't give medical advice, and we do ask that participants don't seek medical advice from us. It's more about information regarding, perhaps you know about a service that you've accessed and it's worked for you and you want to share that with other parents. So it's a really great forum for sharing those types of things, and also you can't put a dollar value on the effect of sharing your personal stories with other people. There's something really special about that. Resources. So this gives us another way in which we can share resources with people. So what's actually available out there and what they can tap into. Support. And this is a really broad term which can be broken down quite a lot, but even just coming together is a really special form of support, and I'm sure you've probably experienced that somewhat today just by meeting other people. But when you come together in a sort of intimate environment, there is something really unique that happens, and for us it was a really relaxed environment. And Kirsty, one of our committee members, hosted that event, and she did a terrific job of creating a very relaxed environment in which people could open up, and people were very open even on that first day. And then also empowerment. So we want to try to empower carers because we know that it's a really anxious journey and that can fluctuate. So sometimes, there's the highs and the lows, and we want to empower people with information and ways in which they can deal with some of those experiences. And then community feedback. So a really great bonus for us as a committee is that we don't obviously name people and what they share with us, but if there's standout issues that keep coming up, we can identify those, bring them back to the committee and see what it is that we might be able to actually do about it. So some of the things that the participants raised on the day, there were quite a few things, but these were some of the standouts. So anxiety, which probably comes as no surprise to anyone. Other mental health concerns regarding their child, such as depression, self-harm, sense of urgency. And with the sense of urgency, I just want to explain that a little bit. That was about wanting to get everything done now because you don't know how much time you've got. So a young person, their parents were explaining that they have this sense of, I'm running out of time, so they're trying to do everything at once. And then exercise was a large topic, so how much, what sort, what's age appropriate, or how do you get a child who's not interested in exercise to actually exercise. Educational resources and supports. So this came up when people were talking about how do schools handle a child, or not necessarily handle a child, but how do you get through to an educational institution about what is a Fontan? What does that mean for your child? And again, this is really unique. Some people don't need a lot of support and then other children do. So how do you get that across to a school and where do you find the supports? Developmental issues, a very broad topic, of course, and unique to each person, and allied health. So people raised the fact that they could access allied health quite easily in hospital, but they couldn't access it very easily as an outpatient. And then dental care came up as well. So we are aware that New Zealand has a different system to Australia. And interesting what Eve mentioned earlier today about the dental issues. So it is something that came up there as well. So at the end of the afternoon, we asked the participants to fill in a very short feedback survey that just what did they like about the afternoon, what would they like to see, and how often would they like to meet and what sort of environment. So every single person said sharing stories and experiences was one of the things that they liked about the afternoon. The ability to talk about various topics openly, that nothing was really off the table, and because it's a child-free environment, they didn't have to be concerned about saying something they thought might upset their child. Respect, that everyone had an opportunity to speak, and people's stories, there was respect shown for each other. What they're seeking going forward is more information and resources, and they're very keen on guest speakers. By guest speakers, we're talking about professionals that perhaps can come and talk to the group on relevant topics, and they want to meet every 2 to 3 months. I just quickly want to say that, before I move on to the next part, that we are going to be having like a brainstorming meeting in Brisbane after this education day, because there's been some strong interest from the community there about having a carers group. And if you are interested, if people here today are interested in starting one in New Zealand, or perhaps more than one in New Zealand, obviously, please do get in touch with us, or you can talk to one of us today, or if not, email would be great, because we're going to absolutely have to have the community's involvement in order for these to be up and running and for them to continue and to be a success. We can't do it without you. So I'm just going to quickly go to mental health and financial resources, which is another project we've been working on. And this came out of the survey that we did in 2015. The results showed that there were several standouts, and 2 of them were mental health concerns and financial concerns and impacts. So the committee tried to figure out a way that we could actually do something about that. And we decided that one thing we could do was we could find out what's actually out there, what resources are there in Australia and New Zealand, and as we did that we can then identify what's missing. So we've done our first upload at the start of September, and I'd just like to quickly thank Ingrid, I'm not sure where she is in the room, who did a huge amount of work on this upload and layout for us, as well as being part of the research, and please God, technology work. I'm just going to very quickly show you how this works. So this is the Fontan Registry's website, and if you go to it and go straight here to home, and as you scroll down, you'll see here mental health or financial. You can select either one of these. This one here has been broken up into Australia and New Zealand, and you just scroll through and you can select any of these. The way we've set it up is that you have the heading and then a description rather than a web address, so that you sort of know what it is you're about to click on. And if we did, say, for example, a travel assistance scheme, it'll take you straight to the actual page, so you don't have to do much searching. And then you can look into that. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. All right. So that was only the initial upload. That's an ongoing project. You can imagine that's very large. We're trying to tap into all the resources in Australia and New Zealand. So again, I'm going to ask you here, as well as the Australian community as well, we really need your help with this. If you know of a resource or you've accessed a resource and it's been really helpful to you, if you could let us know, we'll include it on this list, because oftentimes the best way to find out about a resource is from people that are actually accessing them. And we'll continue to add to that and hopefully end up with a really helpful site for you to look at when you're looking for these types of resources. We do have a couple of projects. I just want to emphasise that these are just in discussion. There's been no concrete decisions made about what you can see up here. They're just topics we've been talking about. So online groups for adults with Fontan circulation and online groups for carers. And this came about, and we're talking about this because we know that not everybody can physically get to a carers group in person, and also that some people don't wish to do that. They don't feel comfortable in person. They'd rather be online and have a little bit of privacy in that regard. And that's fair enough. So we're trying to make these things accessible to everybody. And also the younger generation like to do things online a lot too, so we're trying to cater to everyone. We've got development of resources. This is really broad. So we're at the moment just discussing options for resources and what we can do there, and having really great conversations with the Fontan Registry, who are doing some wonderful things in that area as well. And we have not had much discussion on neurodevelopment, but I just wanted to mention it today because it was another standout result from the survey. And when we have made some decisions or things on these progress at any stage, we will of course let the community know via Facebook and also the website. So how do you get involved? We are still and always seeking interest from people in New Zealand to participate on the actual committee as a committee member. If you're interested, or you think you're interested now, or you just want to know a little bit more about it, you can either talk to us today or contact us on the addresses that I'll put up shortly. You can communicate with us via email or Facebook. You can engage within the Fontan community, so days like today, carers groups, Facebook, any events where it brings you together as a community. And you can share with us any helpful resources that you're aware of, as I just mentioned. And I've just put a little blurb there at the bottom. Community involvement and a collective voice are vital to having the needs of the Fontan community heard and to effect change. So these are our contact details. I will put this slide up at the end and leave it up so you can have a bit more time to copy it down. And I hope it doesn't seem arrogant that I've actually quoted myself, but I have. Just putting that out there. But I did just want to conclude today by saying that there is such a huge importance to have a collective voice, and the role that we see that we play as a committee is that we can be a representative voice for the Australian and New Zealand Fontan community, so families and people living with a Fontan circulation. And we all know that if it was just me going into a room, or just one of you on your own, and you wanting to get attention on a particular topic, you're one person, and quite often that can be easily dismissed. But if there's a number of people that come together on a topic that seems to be popular and a general issue, then there's absolutely more power in numbers, and there's just no denying that. So I just want to finish up by saying, and excuse me for reading a little bit off my notes here, that we all are trying to strive for the same thing, and that is the best quality of life for people living with a Fontan circulation. We absolutely need you to be involved. There's just no two ways about that. It has to be a community goal, and it has to be something we do together. We want consistency of care. We want to identify where there's issues and concerns, and we want to identify where change is needed and then effect change. We're far more likely to achieve these things together. Thank you.